Welcome to Deadball TV. Today I am joined once again by Michael Talks Football to talk Champions League ball. We all know the round of 16 matchups. We all know the path to the final for every single team. And after this episode, you will also know the biggest storylines to pay attention to for the rest of the tournament. Hit subscribe for more UCL content here on Deadball TV. And also please subscribe to Michael's channel because he talks about the UCL far more than I do. So I think you're going to enjoy all the videos that he drops over there. Michael, storyline number one here. And this is a big one. How does the Champions League affect the Ballon d'Or race? So, as things stand, most people would say it is Mo Salah versus Rafinha at this point in time. And we know how much the Champions League matters whenever people go to cast their Ballon d'Or vote. Never forget Vinicius Jr. last year, the greatest Ballon d'Or robbery of all time. The major push for his vote was how he performed in the Champions League and especially in the late stages. So I went back and I looked at how Vinicius did last season versus how the front runners are doing in the competition this year so far. Vinicius last year in the Champions League, 7 goals, 2 assists. He did miss some games due to injury. That was his final GA tally. Currently, Mohamed Salah, 3 goals and 4 assists after the group phase. Rafinha, 8 goals, 4 assists. So when it comes to just UCL, Rafinha is the one cooking. He's the one who is leading the charge. Salah's stats are not bad at all, but they're not like Rafinha's stats are just absolutely crazy. So I'm kind of wondering, as we see this tournament go on, how these two individuals and how their teams perform affects their standing in the Ballon d'Or race. And the best part about this, Michael, is they're on different sides of the bracket, which means we could end up having the Ballon d'Or race come down to a Champions League final. Who plays better in that individual game and which team comes out on top for the trophy?
I'm liking it. Look, maybe last season when Rodri won the biggest robbery in Ballon d'Or history, I think his push was Spain won the Euro. And obviously Man City won the Premier League for the 4th time in a row. Years past, you can look at Champions League performances and say that's why they won the Ballon d'Or. Of course, Messi as well with the World Cup. So now it gets interesting. With no international football, although I don't know what the Club World Cup is going to say. Are people really going to take into account the Club World Cup performances? I highly doubt it. I think it comes down to how you do in the league and how you do in the Champions League. Right now, when it comes to league form, I think Salah clears everybody. And I don't think it's even close. Okay, Rafinha is doing well in La Liga, but Salah is carrying Liverpool's attack. Not the team, just the attack. I think he's got 60% goal involvement in all the goals for Liverpool. Whereas Rafinha, I mean, the dude is destroying everybody in the Champions League. So it gets fascinating. Now you got the knockout stage football. How do both teams and how do both players perform in the knockout stage football? How far do they go? Let's say if Liverpool lose to PSG in the round of 16, does that eliminate Salah immediately? He would have to go on a crazy run then in the Premier League. I mean, crazy. Like 60 GA goal involvement. It's just clutch at the end. Whereas Rafinha, what if he goes out in the round of 16? Does then he go away from the Ballon d'Or voting? But there's a name you forgot. Kylian Mbappe. If he turns up, because now he's turning up in La Liga, just got the hat trick against Man City in the Champions League. He could have a late push to win this Ballon d'Or. So yeah, I think it comes really down to, for the Ballon d'Or, how you perform in the Champions League. Of course, it depends on how far your team goes, but you also got to have some individual performances. Let's say if Liverpool make it to the final, but the main guy is actually Diaz instead of Salah. How do then voters cast then their votes? Yeah, makes it for a very intriguing storyline. But do you think Mbappe could get involved in this?
I'm glad you brought that up because a mini storyline here is whose Champions League performances push them in to Ballon d'Or contention. Who is just outside the top 2 right now, but they're looking inwards. And should their team win the Champions League, they're right in the conversation. And the number one name I have is Kylian Mbappe, who through 10 games already has 7 goals, 1 assist. He's got 20 GA in La Liga right now. So he could easily finish on 40 plus GA this season across all comps. And if he does that and Madrid make the final or win the Champions League outright, how is he not a top 5 nominee? in that case. Like, he's got to be on that short list. Now, let me cook here. Some other names that I believe could play themselves into Ballon d'Or contention through the Champions League.
I'm waiting for one name.
Ousmane Dembele.
Let him cook.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. I will continue cooking, bro. 6 goals, 1 assist in the Champions League so far this season. 21 GA in Ligue 1. So he's got one more league GA than Mbappe as things stand. But another name, and somebody that we thought was highly overlooked in the last edition of the Ballon d'Or, Florian Wirtz. Florian Wirtz. He also has 6 goals, 1 assist in the Champions League for Leverkusen this season, 19 GA in the Bundesliga. Now, for me, Wirtz is at a disadvantage because Bayern look like they're going to win the league. But of course, if Leverkusen came back and overtook them and Leverkusen make a deep push, he's got to be top 5. But for me, Wirtz needs to make the final. If Leverkusen make the final, he has to be considered. If they lose to Bayern in this round, his Ballon d'Or shout is done, even though he as an individual has been absolutely balling out. And my hipster shout for Ballon d'Or, Achraf Hakimi.
Ooh, okay.
Now, he's only played 18 games in Ligue 1, which could bite him in the butt a little bit because of games missed. But PSG, as things stand now, 13 points clear in Liga. They have not won the league by that wide a margin since 2021-2022 season. Achraf Hakimi has 4 goals and 5 assists as a right back in the league. And in the Champions League, already he has 1 goal and 5 assists, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, a couple things need to happen for Hakimi to win the Ballon d'Or. And namely, they have to knock out Liverpool in the round of 16 of the Champions League. And just imagine PSG eliminate Liverpool in the round of 16. Morocco beat Egypt in the AFCON final. How is Achraf Hakimi not a Ballon d'Or top 3 candidate should that happen? What do you think?
One thing I have to dispute, though, is the Ballon d'Or will be given out in November, October. So the AFCON will not have a lot of say into this voting.
Okay. Well,
that's going to be the problem for Hakimi.
We know that nobody rates the AFCON anyways, right?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, according to Carragher, it's not a major competition, so it doesn't really matter. But I do like the shout for Hakimi, but I feel like if PSG make it to the final and if they win it, I think Dembele has a huge case because, let's be honest here, after that World Cup final in 2022, I thought this guy was done because that was the worst World Cup final performance or any final performance I think I've ever seen from any player. He was horrific. He was still at Barcelona, didn't go so well, makes the move to PSG, some bright spots, but this season, he's a new man. I don't know what it is with Dembele. I don't know what he's eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Keep eating it because he is cooking. And if he can cook Liverpool and then maybe Aston Villa, maybe Real Madrid in the semifinal, and could you imagine this storyline? If he beats Barcelona in that final, oh my God, and he drops like 2 goals, I mean, that might be one of the greatest revenge stories ever. And he might win the Ballon d'Or because he's such a talented player. Like, there's a reason why he made the move to Dortmund and made the crazy money move to Barcelona. The dude has always been talented. He just hasn't been able to show it. But this season, it just seems like everything's clicking. And yeah, you could have a Ballon d'Or run. I think we have like 5 to 6 players where I would say they can win the Ballon d'Or this season. And it all comes down to the Champions League performances.
Do you think Hakimi is the only defender who would be in contention for the Ballon d'Or?
Van Dijk as well.
Okay. Well, you got to win the round of 16 because I think if either team lose, we know how hard it is for a defender to even be considered. It's done. It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
Like, it's not done for Salah. It's not done for Dembele, but it's done for the defenders.
Yes, in that case. 100%. 100%. All right. Do you want to hear my storyline? My first one?
Of course.
Okay. My first one is, can Unai Emery heritage in European football guide Villa to the semifinals of the Champions League? Now, the last 2 seasons for Unai Emery in European football have actually been pretty bad. Because if you look at his The last 2 seasons, it's been the Conference League. 22-23. Guess how far Villarreal went in the Conference League? Oh, yeah, they lost in the round of 16 to Anderlecht. Last season, everybody thought they're going to win the Conference League, Aston Villa. And then Olympiacos and El Kabi said, okay, watch this. And they dunked on them. And then obviously Olympiacos went on to win the Conference League. So Unai Emery lately in Europe has not been cooking. Okay, he got Villarreal to the semifinals of the Champions League in the 21-22 when they knocked out Bayern Munich and Juventus on the road, and that was sensational. And the dude has 4 Europa Leagues in his back. I mean, not many managers can say that. They have 4 European competition victories. That is insane for Unai Emery. But lately, Villa have not been looking great. Their last clean sheet is January 15th against Everton. That's their last clean sheet. And I think since then, they've had like 8 to 10 games. So the defense isn't holding up. But I just wonder, with his heritage and how good he is tactically, can he help? Because Villa have a tough opponent in Club Brugge. And if they advance them, they play either Liverpool or PSG. That's pretty tough for Unai Emery. Do you think his heritage can guide Villa to a deep run?
Firstly, I must say, Villarreal Anderlecht in the Conference League round of 16 should never happen. That's the final right there. Second, I mean, look at the Conference League fixtures we got this year compared to that. That's insane. I'll give them a little bit of a pass for that. That's a really, really tough draw in that round, that early in the tournament. It's going to be interesting because if he loses to Club Brugge, questions are asked. Cannot.
And he's already lost to them, by the way. Sorry. He lost to them in the league phase.
If you get knocked out by them over 2 legs, because you know what they'll say. Oh, it was a fluke. It was a one-off. But if you lose the 2-legged affair now, questions are asked. And I think maybe a strong end to the Premier League performance could shelter him there. But remind me, let's see, if they beat Brugge, do they have Liverpool?
PSG, Liverpool, yeah.
There's so much on the line here for Unai Emery. Because if he wins that, I don't care who it's against, he enters GOAT status. Honestly, he does. And biggest loser of Aston Villa and Unai Emery making a deep run in the Champions League is Arsenal. Because they sacked this man. And they were quick to sack this man too.
Yeah, they were. Yep. After he made the Europa League final with Arsenal too.
How many European finals have they made since then? Well, there we go. There we go. So, dude, when I was composing these storylines, there are so many managers with so much at stake here. Like, I had a kind of a mini one here. Which manager takes the biggest hit reputation-wise for not making the semifinal or the final? I don't think it would be Unai Emery because he is manager of Aston Villa, right? That would protect him. But who would you say?
Manager-wise, I think the easy answer is to say Vincent Kompany.
Okay.
I think it's the easy one because, look, it's his, 3rd or 4th season of professional football as a manager. Obviously, with Anderlecht, Burnley, it did not go well. Obviously, Championship, they dominated. The Premier League, he was too naive and got caught out. He gets the Bayern jump. Now, that is the greatest jump I've ever seen in mankind. You're managing Burnley, and you go to Bayern Munich. The expectations rise immediately by 100 times. 100 times. So now if you're Vincent Kompany, you have the league on lock. And I think Bayern Munich have kind of gotten a positive run-in because the Bundesliga this season isn't strong, and you're seeing Leipzig struggling. Dortmund is really struggling. They're 10th in the Bundesliga. Bayer Leverkusen aren't their invincible selves. So I think Vincent Kompany has been aided by the Bundesliga being a little bit weakened. But now in the Champions League, this is where every big team, they look at their manager and saying, can you do it? And Vincent Kompany this season, he got destroyed by Feyenoord 3-0. He got destroyed by Barcelona 4-1. He lost to Unai Emery and Aston Villa, got 1-0 victory over PSG, and barely, and I mean barely, squeaked by Celtic. Celtic. Now, don't disrespect the Celtic, and they have a great history in European football, but Vincent Kompany is under pressure here. You could say, oh, he's missing some players, and all his center backs have bozo moments. I can understand that. But Vincent Kompany still has to go forward Bayern Munich. If they go to round of 16 exit, that's unforgivable. That's the same thing as Niko Kovac when he was Bayern Munich manager when it was in 2019 when they lost to Liverpool. So I think Vincent Kompany has the biggest stock to lose. I think for Xabi Alonso, Diego Simeone, I think even for Arteta, maybe they have some excuses. I think for Vincent Kompany, he really doesn't have a lot of excuses. You got to make it past Leverkusen. You cannot lose to another Bundesliga team. I'm sorry.
Can I throw another name at you? Hansi Flick.
Yeah.
Now, I think what they would say is maybe he just got there to Barcelona, so give him some time, which I would think is kind of a weak defense. He can't lose to Benfica. You cannot lose to Benfica with this Barcelona team that is scoring goals for fun in every single game. Now, the defense is a different story. We can talk about that if we want to, but I also don't think Flick has the credit in the bank. I know he won the Supercopa, but we know Spanish fans don't care about the Supercopa really at all. It's like the community shield practically. So if you go out this early as a team that has expectations, both from us, but also the public, to at least make a semifinal. We did the whole video grading the difficulty path for the La Liga teams. It's out on the channel. Go check that out. And we said Barcelona had the easiest path to the final of at least the Spanish sides. And I think of most teams, they are on the favorable side of the bracket. They have to go through Inter Milan. It's going to be a really tough matchup if that happens. And I think Leverkusen would be fireworks. Like, I hope that's the game that we would see. I'm not sure if they would actually do that. I think Leverkusen play Inter, but you know what I'm saying. I think Hansi Flick, I don't know. I see grumblings already from the Barca fan base, not just because of the Copa del Rey 4-4 draw yesterday, but if he gets bounced here, then all the pressure is you must win La Liga. And if that doesn't happen too, I know we're talking dominoes here, but I think his reputation takes a hit. I think the reputation for Kompany is he's a lucky bastard and he shouldn't have gotten the job anyways.
Yeah, I would say so. Maybe in that case, yeah. I'm just trying to think of other managers. What if Simeone doesn't make it to the semifinals? Does his reputation take a hit? And also taking another L against Real Madrid in the Champions League. What would you say to that?
Would he be protected by the curse of Real Madrid in the Champions League?
No, you can't. No. Because you've lost, I think, two ties, I think, against Real Madrid. I think one semifinal, one round of 16, and obviously the two infamous finals, if you want to say that. So I think he's got to now get over this Real Madrid hump in the Champions League. It has to happen now. This is, I think, a great time for it because you got back in the summer. You got the Sorlofs, you got the Julians, you got the Lenomads, you got all these players. So this is a great opportunity for Diego Simeone to really change his reputation. Now, if he loses, and let's say if it's like a 4-1 on aggregate, people are not going to rate him that highly. Although me, you, of course, we will always rate Diego Simeone highly. But maybe to the casual football fan, we're like, this guy does nothing in European football. Of course, he's won a Europa League with Atleti, but in the Champions League, that's where everything matters.
It's funny that people would say he's done nothing when he's made two finals, and basically making one final has been Pochettino's entire brand for the last decade.
But I think
he doesn't do anything in Europe.
But like for a pedestal of Simeone, we always say he's going to be a top manager, and always when he does retire, let's say in 10 to 20 years, do we put him in like one of those discussions with a Klopp, with an Ancelotti, with one of those managers? When you don't have a Champions League to bring it to the table, that's going to hurt him. Of course, it's Atleti, and he brought them from, obscurity in a way, even though Atletico historically are not an obscure team, but he really just guided them through the ashes and rose them like a phoenix. So now, if he could just collect that one Champions League, oh my, his legacy is set. He doesn't have to win anything for the rest of his career, for me. So I think it does hurt him a little bit, again, losing to Real Madrid.
I would agree. I look at it like this. Most of the managers here are probably taking hits if they got bounced in the round of 16, with the exception of like the Club Brugge manager, right? Nobody's being like, well, I think we got to get him out the door, but it's more of how much damage do you take? If everybody's got 100 health points, how many does Diego Simeone lose if Atleti lose to Real Madrid? 30? Something like that? 20 even? Like, he's not getting sacked if Real Madrid win in the round of 16. Hansi Flick, does he take more than 20 damage points? I kind of think he does. Vincent Kompany, he might already be on 50 HP as is. And if you lose to Leverkusen, another German team, like you said, he might faint. He might be following the same career path as Gerrard. He's off to Al Ettifaq next week.
There's one manager that would take the biggest hit, though, if they lost in the round of 16 that we haven't discussed. And that's Arteta.
Okay.
What if he loses to PSV? And let's look at his European record. It ain't great either. He's lost to Olympiacos, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, he lost to Bayern Munich last season. They squeaked by Porto. It went to penalties and he squeaked by because Conceição got into his head. Now, look, the excuse from Arsenal fans will be, we have injuries. I'm sorry, on paper, Arsenal still have a much better team than PSV. And PSV have a good team, but Arsenal on paper, with all the money they have spent, if they lose to PSV, and let's say PSV dominate them at home and win 3-1, and then at the Emirates is 1-1. I mean, people are going to start looking at Arteta. They have to. It's at some point, Arsenal have to look at Arteta and say, are you really that guy? And if they lose to PSV in the round of 16, in the quarterfinal, okay, I think we would accept if they don't have the players back from the injuries. Okay, you lose to Real or Atleti, it's acceptable. If you lose to PSV, though, Arteta HP is going to go to like 75. It's going to be bad.
I'll do you one better. Is this Champions League the final nail in the coffin for Mikel Arteta as Arsenal manager? A couple different scenarios could play out here, right? They beat PSV and they lose to Real Madrid in the next round. He's fine. Nobody's expecting Arsenal to beat Real Madrid. Like, the fans will still be upset, but they will be calling for his head. If he beats PSV and Arsenal loses to Atleti in the next round, I'm not sure they'll be like Arteta out, but he's going to take a hit there, mainly because of the perception of the strength of Atletico Madrid. Like, the English media doesn't respect Atleti at all. They think that we suck. So losing to Atletico,
Dinosaur
football. Chelsea beat us recently in the knockouts. Manchester City beat us. I think our last knockout win was Manchester United. We beat them 2-1 on AG maybe 3 years ago, something like that. So that would be a bad loss. If Arsenal lose to PSV, a team that is led by 36-year-old Ivan Perisic, I think he's done. I'm going to say it. I know I'm putting my neck out there. I think he's done. I don't think he survived.
Really?
I think
okay,
he's
so
done.
What about the excuses of the injuries? What about that then?
I think it only gets you so far. I think the injury excuse might help him more in the Prem, but you can't lose to PSV in the Cup, dude. Here, you touched on some teams already. Here are the teams that have eliminated Mikel Arteta and Arsenal in Europe since he arrived. 2019, Olympiacos in the Europa League round of 32. 2020 season, Villarreal in the Europa League semifinal, Unai Emery. 2021 season, they didn't even qualify for Europe. 2022, Sporting in the Europa League round of 16. 2023, Bayern Munich in the Champions League quarterfinal. If you add PSV Champions League round of 16 to that list, I think it's inexcusable. I don't think many other managers, maybe Klopp, maybe because he was so beloved, but if Klopp had that exit resume, dude, I mean, how would you view Klopp if those were the teams that eliminated Liverpool over the last 6 years? You'd be pissed, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, I would be pissed. And you would be pissed, too, if that was Simeone with Atleti. I think So that's the thing.
You better have 2 La Liga titles in there.
Oh, yeah, you have to. And what does Arteta have?
FA Cup Community Shields.
Wow. Impressive. This is Arsenal. No disrespect to Tottenham. This is not Tottenham. This is Arsenal Football Club, who have a grand history of titles and trophies. And you've been there now 6 years? 6 years. You haven't made it to the semifinals of one European competition. You've only got one FA Cup. You got to get past PSV. I think it's acceptable to lose to this Atleti and to lose to this Real Madrid. He's safe. I cannot imagine the meltdown if Arsenal lose to PSV. The media, look, I think he's gotten some, because Arsenal were in such a bad place when he took over. They were just such a mess. The squad was a mess. Everything was just a mess. That's why they have had to spend so much money to rectify them and bring them back to a solid team. He's got to get past the PSV. I don't care if no Saka, no Havertz, no Jesus, no Martinelli. You have something still to get past PSV. And that's no disrespect to PSV. I think they're a good team. But if you've actually been looking at PSV's recent fixtures, they're bottling the Eredivisie. They're bottling it. So, it could be interesting, though.
Yeah, it's not disrespect to PSV and like they're not a good club. It's just the reality of when you're supposed to be a Premier League club pushing for titles with the financial investment that Arteta has received, it's just factual that Arsenal are the favorites to win this tie. We both think PSV are a good team, but you can't be, even hipsters such as us, we can't be like, actually, PSV, I think they got the edge here. I mean, we can predict them to win, but nobody's saying they're the favorites. You know what I'm saying? PSV's manager is not going to take the same hit as Mikel Arteta. Like, you signed up for this, bro. You're managing a Premier League team. Welcome. This is what it looks like. And I think Arteta's reputation will suddenly be put side by side with three other individuals. Number one, Arsene Wenger. Because one of the things about Arsene Wenger is he didn't get massive summer spending sprees like this. The Arsenal board said, hey, bro, we got $5 for you. So get out there, get us into the Champions League and lose to Bayern Munich. And he did that time and time again for decades. Another manager is going to be compared to Unai Emery. Because of what Unai Emery, that's the last European final Arsenal have gotten to. Yes, they lost to Chelsea, but he still got them there. If he takes Aston Villa to the semifinal or the final, that looks bad on Mikel Arteta. But it mainly looks bad on the Arsenal ownership, I would say, in that scenario. And the third person, Arne Slot. If he wins the league in his first season and makes the final, the Champions League, I mean, God forbid he gets the double and wins wins the Champions League.
I might faint.
You will faint, and I think the Arsenal fan base will faint as well. Just you would be from euphoria, theirs would be from sheer rage. Because it would become, I think that would be a little unfair. Actually, hold on. Let me check myself. Would it be unfair to say that Arteta failed if Slot does the double? I don't think so. I think it would be a fair criticism of like, dude, what the hell have you been doing? This guy just got here. He just got here.
Yeah, and then you kind of look back at the summer signings that they made. They didn't bolster them in the right positions. You didn't need another defender. Did you really need Mikel Merino? Me and you watch Real Sociedad. You should take Zubamendi all day, every day. Now they want Zubamendi, of course, but it's just going to all come back to the transfer window and everything. And there's just going to be so many question marks about Arsenal. So many, and especially for Mikel Arteta. Then he's on thin ice, I think. Next season, if they lose to PSV, next season, if they go through a little bit of a slump, like let's say 5 to 10 games where they don't win a game, he might be sacked. Because I think then Arsenal fans will be so irate online. And the owners are not stupid. The owners are smart people. They're business people. That will hurt their product. So fascinating. Because if can you imagine that meltdown? It will be AFTV and chill all night if Arsenal lose to PSV.
Oh, 100%. It'll be really interesting to see what happens to his future. I mean, I've been surprised by managerial sackings in the past, but he's been there for so long now. Would you say it's harsh if he gets sacked, if PSV knocked them out? I mean, it's not the friendliest sacking of all time, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you were given years that other managers didn't.
Yes.
And you couldn't get the job done. So fascinating to see. Now, whether you rate Arteta as a manager or not, that's personal opinion. But you could not call his Arsenal tenure success. An FA Cup and 2 Community Shields. I think it's 2. You can't call that a success. Absolutely not.
No. All right. My next storyline is who will be the dark horse of this year's UCL? Now I'm going to give you some names from the past 5 years that have made deep runs in the Champions League. 2019, Tottenham made the final of the UCL, and they had a crazy run, as we all know. 2020, RB Leipzig made it to the semis of the UCL. 2022, Villarreal made it to the semis. And last season, Borussia Dortmund, say what you want about Dortmund. Yes, they're a big club. They haven't performed well in Europe in the last couple of years. They made it to the final and eventually lost to Real Madrid. So it's interesting because you look at this field and you're like, okay, you got Leverkusen. Do they count as a dark horse? Not really. Atleti, I don't think so. Real Madrid, no. Inter, no. I feel like a team like a Lille, if they make it to a quarterfinal, I think that's a dark horse. If Benfica make it to the quarterfinal and knock out Barcelona, I mean, that's dark horse right there. Or what about the Belgian team, Club Brugge? I think this team, I made a video on it on my channel, shameless plug. I call them the most underrated team in Europe because these guys ball out and they don't care. And I think I fancy their chances over Aston Villa. So for me, I think they would be my dark horse to make it to the quarterfinal of the UCL and knock out Unai Emery and Aston Villa, which would be hilarious to see a Belgian Pro League team knock out a Premier League team on the way to the quarterfinal. But who do you kind of think is the dark horse for this season in the UCL. Do you think it could be PSV? I mean, final knockout Inter. With all the injuries they have, that would be insanity. And Van Persie now is the manager. Craziness.
Serie A down bad. Down in the mud. Dude, if Feyenoord conquer Milan, the city of Milan, oh, hell no. Like, it's up to Inter to put respect on Serie A right now. Okay, dark horse. I love the Brugge shout because even though Aston Villa were very good in the group phase, this is different gravy here. It's been a long time since Aston Villa were in the knockouts of a Champions League. A lot of these players haven't been there before. Unai Emery, questionable record in Europe, at least the last 2 seasons. He's a Europa League god. Nobody can dispute that, but this is not the Europa League. There's upset potential there, for sure. Like, I would say the reason I can't go Benfica is because for the life of me, I can't see them beating Barca over 2 legs. They could beat them in the home leg.
You can say that, but they were 4-2 up in that game against Barca when there was the craziness game when it was 5-4. I mean, Benfica were leading that game, and they threw it away.
Yeah. That's true. They had 2 pens in that game, too, did they not? Benfica?
Yep. I think so, yeah, if I remember.
I mean, if Barca can see 2 pens again in one game.
And it was also Szczesny as well. Szczesny had a disaster class.
Yeah. I just don't see that happening again. I do not think Barca are going to blow Benfica out of the water. But I think if you were to choose one who's more likely to get the upset, it is Brugge over Aston Villa, then Benfica over Barcelona. I'm going to back Lille in this one because Dortmund are just that beatable. I know they've looked pretty comfortable in the, what would you call it? What do we call it? The knockout phase? Like, what do you call before
playoff?
You go into the round? The playoff. What am I? I'm American. I should know that term. The playoff. It was pretty comfortable for them there. I just failed my entire heritage. But Leo, man, I just think the one-off games that they had in the group phase, extremely impressive. Of course, they got my boy Jonathan David, who I would love for him to score a goal or maybe even 2 in this fixture, just to silence the ridiculous amount of haters that this guy has online, probably because he's Canadian. Probably because he's better than Ballon, but that's neither here nor there. I'm going to back them as my pick. I think, and it'd be massive for the French league too, at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Guirassy is just scoring for fun every single game, so that's going to be really tough. If Leo can slow him down, I think they get it done. I'm going to stick with them. But you're going Brugge? Dark horse?
Yeah, I think I got to go with Brugge, even though in my prediction video, I got Aston Villa just advancing because it's Unai Emery in European football. But it's like Club Brugge just destroyed Atalanta. I don't think people understand. Like, Atalanta just won the Europa League and beat Thanos, a.k.a. Leverkusen, last season when they went invincible. So for Club Brugge to be doing this, and they drew with Juventus 0-0. They were 1-0 up against City, and then they eventually lost 3-1 because they threw the game away. They beat Aston Villa. They've beaten some very good teams on. Like, this is no fluke. If they beat Aston Villa, I don't want to hear, oh, they're lucky. It's all a fluke. It's just maybe some magic potion they're taking. No, they got some ballers, people. I'll keep saying this. Ordóñez, the center back, the Ecuadorian, is a beast. And the dude is 20 years old. If you think Pacho is good, if you think Hincapie is good, Ordóñez might be better. He is just a phenomenal center back. So I really hope Club Brugge can do it. And it would just be awesome to see a Belgian Pro League team in the quarterfinal of the UCL. This is what we ask for as hipster fans.
Yeah, I would love that. Also, Ordóñez definitely being sold for like 35 mil in the next.
I've been trying to promote it on Twitter. Liverpool, please sign him. Please.
He would be such a beast. God, Ecuadorian center backs. It's peanut butter and jelly. It's insane.
It is.
I knew you were going to talk about the Cinderella or the dark horse runs. I had Cinderella runs. You guys let us know in the comments which team you think is going to go the furthest. We did say way back in the effing day, dude, that the pot 4 team that was going to do the best was Aston Villa. Correct me if I'm wrong, but no other pot 4 is still here, right?
I don't think so.
Check.
Is Club Brugge a pot 4 team?
They couldn't have been a pot 4, probably 3. Let me see. I'm trying to
maybe Leo.
Maybe Leo. That's a good shout. I can't find the pots.
Because I know PSV and Feyenoord are not. They've had good coefficients the last couple of years.
I'm going to have to research this in the background, but I wanted to ask you, is there a case and an opportunity in this Champions League for a defender to cement their status as the best in the game right now?
Oh, a defender.
A defender. We got to give the defense some love.
Yeah, we got to give the defense some love. Who do you think is the best defender right now? Let's actually start with that. Who do you think is the best defender in the world right now?
I think it's Van Dijk or Saliba as the top two.
Okay. I think Saliba can get into that sort of. I don't think so. I think Saliba is maybe like top 5, top 10. He's in around there because I think you can put in Antonio Rudiger from Real Madrid. You could even put the way Kubarsi's playing. He's up there for me. Bastoni, I think he's up there. I would even. There's like Gabriel from Arsenal. Like there's a lot of good defenders. I think Van Dijk, if he keeps performing the way he is and he guides Liverpool to a final, or if he wins another Champions League, I don't think there can be any discussion that in the 2020s, Van Dijk might be the best defender. And he will be in discussion as like one of the best center backs of all time. I still don't think he is like the GOAT defender because I have massive respect for the Baresi's, the Maldinis, and these sort of guys. But if Van Dijk can, you look at the two fullbacks for Liverpool, they're not great right now. Like defensively, Trent, we always know is going to be a liability. Robertson, he's on his last legs. So I think Van Dijk can really cement himself as there ain't no discussion. It's Van Dijk and everybody else just like it's like LeBron in the NBA in like the mid 2010s to early 2010s. It was just LeBron and everybody else. Obviously, Kobe was still there, but LeBron, everybody thought was the best player. I think Van Dijk can cement his spot. The defender who can get into the discussion, though, is definitely Bastoni. I think this guy is probably the most underrated best defender in the world. Just elegant on the ball. A beast of a defender. Nobody can get past him. I love Bastoni. I think he's so... Nobody talks about him because, he's from Inter and Serie A is a slow league and this and that. But when you watch the guy play, nobody can get past him. And I mean, there's a lot of good forwards in the Serie A. They find it difficult against Bastoni. So yeah, I would say Bastoni can get into that discussion of being like a top 2, top 3 defender, even though I think he is already.
What about somebody from the Bundesliga? You watch Bundesliga more than I do. I really only watch them in Europe. Could somebody like, I don't know, a Tapsoba or like a Kim Min-jae throw their hat in the ring here?
No, not really. I can't put them in there. Kim Min-jae, I know he's your guy. To be honest, bro, he's made so many mistakes this season. I mean, a lot of bozo mistakes. Like him and Upamecano, on paper, like a good center back pairing. Both are comfortable on the ball. Both are very physical defenders, but they just make so many simple mistakes. Now, if Kim Min-jae can somehow turn into a beast and just say, hey, lock down defense for the next 4 to 6 games, okay, Kim Min-jae can get back into that discussion because that season he had with Napoli, everybody was like, wow, this guy is unbelievable. And since then, I think his status has really fallen off. I don't know if it's just the pressure of being a Bayern Munich, but it's just his performances have not been consistent enough. I don't really think there's a case for any Bundesliga defender. Not Tapsoba, definitely not Jonathan Tah. I don't know why Barcelona are going after him. Maybe Hinkapie, maybe you could give a shout out for him, but I just don't think any of the defenders can get into like a top 10 discussion.
Yeah, that's the thing about like Hinkapie, very good player. And I love Ecuador. Both of us do. I'm sorry, there's no way he's the best center back in the world. Like he just has a little bit of faults in his game. He also splits time as a left back. Not that that's a bad thing, but I'm kind of looking for that true lockdown CB. I think Bastoni's a great shout. Completely forgot to throw his name in the ring. I'm trying to think anybody. You can't say William Bacho. You can't really throw him in here. Even though Atleti defensively we've been really good this season, you can't say Josema is like the best center back.
Actually, what about Konate?
Oh, from your team. That would be insane because we're basically insinuating Liverpool have 2 of the top 3 center backs in the world right now. I mean, I love Konate. I think that's a shout. I'm looking at like, okay, we got potentially 7 games to the final. Which defender balls out? Which team keeps the most clean sheet? Who has the most individual moments as a defender where everybody's like, that guy actually is pretty good. I think Kim Min-jae would be much more of a redemption story. I think he struggles because of what Vincent Kompany asks him to do. I still rate him very highly. You don't win the Scudetto or Italian Defender of the Year on freaking accident. You know what I'm saying?
No.
It just might not be a good fit for him. Konate, what also helps him is he's got the Premier League clout boost, right?
Yes.
So he's going to get the most talked about. Bastoni not getting coverage unless Inter make the final and play Liverpool in the final, which, by the way, banging final. Absolutely insane. If we got Inter Milan, Liverpool in there. La Liga doesn't have a contender. I don't think so. I like Rudiger. I do. I like Kubarsi.
Barsi?
I like Inigo Martinez. I like Littlemond. But best center back? Only Rudiger, because of the catalog previously, I think could take that. I don't think Kubarsi can overtake Bastoni. They're too similar. It's too soon. I'm not going to disrespect Bastoni like that. Kubarsi will get his time. It's not this year.
Yeah, I think Konate could actually have a good shout because where would you kind of rank him? Is he like a top 10 center back in the world?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then he could get into that discussion. If he like balls out, I mean, Liverpool concede in those 7 games to the final, let's say, or 6 games to the final, let's say they concede 2 goals. Konate will be in that discussion. I'm sorry. Obviously, it's going to help that he has Van Dijk next to him because he's got an absolute beast in leadership from Van Dijk. But I think Konate is slept on because the dude is so injury prone. I mean, the guy gets every season an injury. He's out for 2 to 3 weeks, another injury, 2 to 3 weeks. So I think Konate could really cement himself and get some more notoriety. Like he's like, I don't know, like a Gymshark model, something like that. Get the clout from Gymshark to boost your presence on the online media, the social media, the ESPN FCs, the CBS Sports Golazos, all those football channels. Maybe Konate can get into that discussion because I think he's got the qualities to do it. He's just been so injury prone.
I think we need that Gymshark cloud.
We definitely need it. We definitely need it.
I think we could. I honestly think we could. I don't think there's enough fitness sponsorships in the footy space, which, I mean, football is fitness. You can get really fit playing football. Have you seen every player who's come through Bayern Munich? They get jacked in like one off season. I'm not sure how, but somebody knows.
Well, especially Goretzka.
Gymshark sponsors. Goretzka, dude, you've seen the Alphonso Davies before and afters, right?
Oh, yeah.
Cut it. Lewandowski? Dude looked like he was 24. I mean, with Barcelona, he aged 15 years. That ain't supposed to happen.
Forgot about Lewandowski.
I'm just saying, Gymshark, if you guys have a contact, drop it in the comments. Michael and I will reach out via our agents who don't exist. We talked about this on the last episode in the La Liga MVP rankings out on the channel. Go check that out. Where La Liga as a league doesn't really have world-beating center backs right now. I think there are a couple that have the potential to get there. I would say it's Lenormand with Atletico, Kubarsi with Barcelona, and I would say Asensio with Real Madrid. I know maybe some people think I'm getting premature with that, but just the eye test, the last 5 games I've seen from him, like that dude's a stud. Ignoring, of course, off the field matters, which will not be discussed. But outside of that, I don't think La Liga is like this center back dominant league. You watch the Bundesliga way more than me. Doesn't sound like anybody's getting in there. Serie A probably has 1 or 2 names you would throw in the top 10. I think Bastoni's hands down a top 10 CB. And then you get to the French league, which is kind of difficult to assess those guys. Like, I don't know if you're throwing Marquinhos in the top 10. I don't know if you're throwing Bacho in the top 10. I don't know if you're throwing, God, who's another like stud CB for, does Monaco have a stud CB? I don't.
No, they definitely don't have one.
Okay. So then that's it. I think most of the good athletic defenders are in the Premier League, probably because of the nature of that league as well.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, let's talk about a potential UCL finals. Give me a couple different finals here. And you guys in the comments, what is your dream UCL final? Yours personally. Now, Michael, I know you have your personal final. So what's the final that Michael needs? And what's the final that the world needs if those two things are different? You can say whichever one first.
Okay. Well, I think for the streets and for all football fans in the world, the dream final is an El Clasico final. I don't think there's any discussion about that because, well, we've never seen it before. And can you imagine the storylines that would go into that final? Barcelona have been destroying Real Madrid this season. Obviously, there's still one more El Clasico this season in May. But the manner in which Barca have destroyed Real Madrid. Okay, can Madrid then get their revenge in the final? Let's see how it goes down in La Liga. Will that have a big impact in that UCL final then? The amount of just storylines. And it's like River and Boca when they met in the Copa Libertadores final back in 2018. River will never let them down. They will always remind Boca fans of that moment. So whichever fan base or whichever team wins that final, they will have that always over their rival. Oh, you guys might win La Liga this season. But you remember what happened in the UCL final in 2025? Oh, yeah, we beat you. And that, I think, of course, It would have been fantastic if it was during the Messi and Ronaldo era. But heck, at least we still get it for a UCL final in Munich. I think that would break the internet, in my opinion. Then you have the stars like Vini, Mbappe, Rodrigo, Valverde, Bellingham against Lamine Yamal, Rafinha, Pedri. All the storylines, and let's be honest here, viewership would go crazy. UEFA want that so badly. They want it so badly. Now, my dream final, personally, is Liverpool versus Inter. You already touched upon it. I would love that final. I just think Inter haven't won the UCL since 2010. Inzaghi's never won it before. And I think stylistically, it would be a fascinating matchup with the back five of Inter up against Arne. Like if Arne Slot already has the Premier League in his back, and let's say if Inzaghi already has the Serie A in his back, and remember, Inter are still in the Coppa Italia, so they could be going for a treble in that UCL final, with Arne Slot maybe going for a double in his first season at Liverpool. That would be insanity. And of course, as a Liverpool fan, we need to be there. And we need to secure number 7, so we're on the same number of UCLs as AC Milan. And just one more final, and this is just a hipster final, all the Urban Outfitter shoppers out there. My hipster final is Atletico de Madrid against Bayer Leverkusen, because neither team have won the UCL. Diego Simeone or Xabi Alonso would secure a UCL title in their cabinet, and Wirtz would get some clout. Maybe Griezmann would finally secure everything he's desired in his footballing career. Obviously, he's won the World Cup, he's won Europa League, never won the La Liga, and Julian would secure another UCL trophy. I mean, the guy's cabinet is stacked already. If he has another UCL with Atleti, come on, man, that's the hipster final. Now, of course, the craziest hipster final would be like Club Brugge versus Feyenoord, but I tried to be a little bit more realistic about it. So I think Atleti and Leverkusen, that would cook, bro. Oh my God, Xabi Alonso, and they already met each other in the league phase. So yeah, those are my 3 dream finals.
I fully expected you to say Brugge versus Feyenoord as the.
I tried to be realistic. About it at least.
Oh, I love that one. Okay, let me go realistic hipster. I think, God, you had a good one. Damn, you had a good one. Okay. I'm gonna keep your dream hipster final, Atleti versus Leverkusen. I mean, the reputation on the line, what could be gained, the immortality in that final, so juicy. If we're going the final that the streets need, I like El Clasico. I'm gonna do you better though. Barcelona PSG. That's the final that the streets need. Ousmane Dembele, on his Ballon d'Or run, meets his former club where things did not go well, and Rafinha, maybe his number 1 or maybe 2 competition for the Ballon d'Or currently. If PSG win that final and Dembele scores, Spanish Twitter will be on fire for at least a month, and I will relish in the chaos that will commence after that happens. And also, Luis Enrique as a manager. I mean, what a dub. True. Think about everything that would mean for PSG and for all the players involved. It basically has the potential to change the way clubs view recruitment equating to success in football, because clearly PSG couldn't. I mean, they made a final with, Neymar, but they weren't able to win the actual trophy. Now they've completely changed tactics. Oh, we're buying young players. We're going to try to focus more on French talent, and they make and win a UCL. That would be insane. For Luis Enrique, I think his club career, I don't really think there's too many detractors of that. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but the last major time we saw Luis Enrique...
Actually, though, maybe for Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. That's what people would say. Oh, you have Messi, Neymar, and Suarez.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So maybe that could help Luis Enrique.
You'd have the asterisk next to those, like, oh, your attack was the best ever. Okay. Soft argument, but I can see the haters making that, no doubt. I think it would make him look better and amend what happened with the Spanish national team, right? Because his appointment to Spain was very exciting. It was one of those statement appointments where it's like, oh my God, Luis Enrique's taking over La Roja. Like, they might do something. And they end up losing to Morocco at the World Cup and maybe have one good game where they murder Costa Rica, and that was it. Then Luis de la Fuente comes in. Who the hell is this guy? He's a Federation puppet, and he wins the Euro with one of the youngest teams at the tournament.
And playing exciting football.
And playing exciting football and the most dominant European football run we've ever seen, in my opinion, just based on the actual performances, the goals, the records broken. So then it's like, oh, damn, is Luis Enrique really that good? Not that there's too many people saying that, because I don't think Spanish national football is spoken of that much, but he's got a bone to pick with some of those people as well. So I just think it would be massive for Dembele, for the French league to lift the Champions League. I think it would be insane. Do you think final PSG versus Barcelona win on the flip side? What do you think everybody would be saying about any parties involved?
PSG bottle another Champions League final, and they will never secure it. I was gonna actually say one thing about that final too. What if PSG beat Real Madrid in the semifinal? So they dunk on Mbappe in the semifinal, and they beat Barcelona in the final. Oh my God, PSG! After all the years with Messi, Neymar, all these stars, the Cavani, the Ibras, and they win it with Dembele and Desiree Doué, Kvara. I mean, that would be sensational. I think for Barca, it would just cement that this is a crazy comeback after what they were going through with Xavi. And all these years of embarrassing, like Barca have taken so many L's in the UCL. The Roma debacle, the Liverpool debacle, the remontada. I mean, they have taken so many. The 8-2, we can't forget about 8-2. That was 5 years ago. We're still on the anniversary of 5 years since 8-2. That was one of the most seismic days for me as a football fan. Like, I guess it was an empty stadium, and yeah, but Barcelona losing 8-2, and it was against Hansi Flick also. Hansi Flick inflicted it on Barcelona, and now 5 years later, winning the UCL. Now people will say, oh, Barca got an easy run. Look at this. They got Dortmund, let's say in the quarterfinal. They beat Benfica, and let's say in the semifinal, they beat Inter. Or they would say, oh, look at Serie A. It's not that good. They only had one team involved in competition. I think, though, it would just be such a glorious moment for Hansi Flick to secure two different clubs a UCL title, and also, can you imagine for the legacy of Lamine Yamal, a Euros and now a UCL title to add on to it, and he's only 17, heading into next year in the World Cup, bro, he could have all three rings in less than 2 years of professional football, and he's only 18. Now, what does that mean for the rest of his career? Who knows? But yeah, I think Barcelona, that would be a fascinating final. But if PSG somehow win that final, that would be insanity. After all the years we've been, Macron making all these videos laughing at PSG in European football, and they somehow win it this year. That would be exciting. But hey, you didn't give me your dream final. What's your dream final?
My dream final, I'm getting ambitious here, would be Atletico versus Barcelona. That would be my dream final. I want to take these dudes out in the final. I know we're doing a lot of Barcelona here. That was not the intention, but if Simeone beats Real Madrid, beats Arsenal, beats, I don't care, Liverpool, PSG, could be Club Brugge, I don't give a damn, and then beats Barcelona in the final, first off, I have bragging rights on Lengua de la Liga at least for 5 years. Simeone goes down as one of the GOATs, and I could give a damn what happens in La Liga at that point. I mean, this is what you want. This is what Atleti's been chasing forever, is a UCL. And to get that against Barcelona would be more satisfying than any other team, I think, because of my personal gripes against the Barcelona fan base and the fact that they've kind of cooked us in La Liga for the last 15 years under Simeone. It would be amazing to for Simeone, the guy who can't beat Barca, he's got 6 wins, 20 losses against them as Atleti manager, to win in the UCL final. It would hit different. Now, of course, I would much rather play Dortmund in the final. If we're talking easiest Atleti one, it's going to be Dortmund. But what would I be telling my grandchildren about the time that Atleti beat Barcelona in the UCL final?
Wow. Just one more prediction. What's your realistic prediction for the UCL final? Now that we know the bracket, we know the pathway for all the teams, I'll give you my realistic prediction first so that you can have some time to think about it. I think it's going to be Real Madrid in the final. I think they will knock out Atleti. I think they will knock out either Arsenal or PSV. I think they will knock out either Liverpool or PSG. And on the other side, I think it's just too easy to say, oh, yeah, we're getting El Clasico final. We could have said that early 2010s. It never happened. I think it's going to be Real Madrid against Inter. I think that's going to be the final. And I think that would be a fascinating final to see if, Lautaro Martinez gets a lot of hate. And I can understand it. He's a very hot and cold sort of player. But if Inzaghi can secure that UCL, and I think I think Inter are just built for competitions. They're kind of showing a little bit of fatigue in the Serie A, but they've only conceded one goal in the league phase. How do you concede only one goal in 8 games? How? And they played Man City, Arsenal. They played a lot of good teams. So I think that's going to be my final for the prediction.
I agree. I think Inter is going to make the final from the bottom half of the bracket. Although it'd be so sick if Leverkusen did. I really do like Leverkusen, man.
I do as well. I do. I love Wirtz. Wirtz is my favorite player right now in football.
He is disturbingly good. I mean, there's only a handful of guys, the Yamals, the Wirtzes, the Musialas, where it's like, you shouldn't be that good at football. And this is for Leverkusen, man. But anyways, I digress. In the top half of the bracket, I don't think Madrid get there this season. I think their defense is just not good enough. I think they will get caught out eventually when they have to go up against a good offensive team that puts them on the back foot. I think if you sit back, like what I expect Arsenal and Mikel Arteta to do, should that be the matchup, Real Madrid's going to win. But I don't think PSG is going to sit back. I don't think Liverpool is going to sit back. Picking between Liverpool and PSG is very, very difficult. I will bank on UCL heritage, and I will say Liverpool narrowly, which means was that your dream or for the streets?
That's my dream.
That was your dream final. Your dream final. I think your dream final is going to happen, dude. Congratulations. It's never happening now that I've said
it. When Liverpool get knocked out, I will come back to this video. I will clip it.
Oh, the YouTuber jinx is going to strike again. It's a crazy thing, man, the YouTuber jinx.
Oh, yes, it is. Now, look, I think this UCL format is cooking. We got some exciting matchups, and I can't wait to see how it goes down. It's the UCL. It's the best competition. Of course, you got your Copa Libertadores. Also, the AFC Champions League, they did the similar thing to the new UCL as well, adopting the league phase. So, look, it's cooking, and I hope we get some dramatic finals. I think we're in store for some chaotic matches already in the round of 16.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this just from a guy who loves football. Maybe the most boring round of 16 game is PSV Arsenal, just because of Arsenal's kind of play style. But I mean, you could say Leo Dortmund, maybe because the lack of true stars there and a lot of clout. Feyenoord have a ton of injuries. They've been ransacked. But I think for like a round of 16 draw, this is pretty damn good. And the quarterfinals, semifinals, good Lord. I mean, this is like some of the most excitement I've had towards the Champions League. Probably since my Spurs were actually doing something back in the day. So, do you have any other final mini topics?
No, just for comparison. This was last year, the round of 16 matchups. It was Porto, Arsenal, Napoli, Barcelona, PSG, Real Sociedad when Real Sociedad were frauds, Inter against Atleti, PSV, Dortmund, Lazio, Bayern Munich, FC Copenhagen against Man City, RB Leipzig, Real Madrid. So there was really great matchups in the round of 16 last year. The only one you could say and that actually delivered was Inter Atleti. The rest of them, you could say, was a foregone conclusion because even Napoli last season were a travesty. So I think this round of 16, expect fireworks, people. Get the popcorn and get the sangria. Get whatever drink you need. Get the food. Get a parisha, whatever you want. Get a pho because we're about to dine on some UCL football. Because league football is okay, but for me, growing up, it's always been UCL football. Tuesday, Wednesday nights, you enjoy it, and we're about to enjoy it.
You said Real Sociedad for the last round, and I just tuned out after that because if Real Sociedad made the knockouts, then last year was cooked. And I'm so sorry, but I just cannot recommend watching that team at all. Are they in the Conference League now?
Yep, they're playing Chelsea.
They're playing Chelsea. That's a pretty good round of 16 for Conference League, actually.
Yeah, it is. Hopefully, after Copenhagen, please knock out Chelsea. I need it for Nordic football. I need it for the Nordic football clout. Dude,
you do need it for the Nordic football clout. And if PSV knock out Arsenal and Copenhagen knock out Chelsea,
my narrative of Premier League being the best is gonna cook. I'm gonna cook.
Alkmaar better not knock out Spurs though. That's gonna be a great fixture, I think. But not an easy game. Not an easy game for Spurs. But I don't know. Maybe we'll have to do a Europa League biggest storylines. If you guys want to see that, let us know in the comments. This will not be the last edition of Michael and I teaming up to talk the UCL. I don't know when we're going to get back together. Maybe it's going to be for a semifinal vid or a final vid, or maybe just a tournament recap looking back, like biggest things we learned. But this is not the last time that you have seen, I was going to say Luka and Kyrie, but they're no longer teammates. The LeBron and Luka of the Champions League coverage here on YouTube. If you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you drop it a like, share the episode with a friend. Go check out Michael's channel and give it a subscribe, because he makes really good content over there. If you're listening on streaming platforms, please give the podcast a 5-star rating. Let us know your biggest storyline that you're excited for in the comments, and we'll see you guys in the next one.